Your mind processes over 6,000 thoughts every single day. 6,000 thoughts that pull you in different directions. 6,000 thoughts competing for your attention. 6,000 thoughts creating a storm that never stops. And right now, in this exact moment, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you experienced true silence? And right now, in this exact moment, I want you to ask yourself, when was the last time you experienced true silence? Not the silence of turning off your cell phone screen. Not the silence between conversations. I'm talking about that rare, profound silence where your mind finally stops its endless chatter. Most people will go their entire lives without ever experiencing this kind of silence. They'll live and die in the noise, never knowing what they've missed. But you're not most people, are you? You're here because something inside you recognizes a truth that's becoming harder to ignore. The noise is killing your clarity, your peace, and your connection to what matters most. In the next few minutes, I'm going to reveal the first secret of silence that Buddhist masters have guarded for over 2,500 years. This isn't theory or philosophy. It's a practical power that can transform how you experience every moment of your life. The noise brought you to this video, but the silence, that's what will change everything. Let me show you how. Silence in Buddhism isn't simply about not speaking. It's more like discovering a room in your house you never knew existed, a space that was always there, waiting to be found. When Buddhist masters speak of silence, they're pointing to something that exists before all the mental chatter begins. Think of your mind as a clear blue sky. Thoughts and emotions are like clouds passing through. The silence is that sky, always present, vast and unchanging. It doesn't come and go. It's our awareness of it that shifts. This is what teachers mean by the primordial silence. It's not something you create, but something you return to. Something you remember. There's a big difference between just being quiet on the outside and finding true silence within. You might be sitting perfectly still, not saying a word, while inside your mind is running a marathon of thoughts, worries, and plans. One monk described this as having the body of a statue, but the mind of a monkey. True silence happens when both your words and your thoughts come to rest. When water becomes still, an old teacher once said, you can see all the way to the bottom. This is how silence works as a tool for self-knowledge. In the quiet, you start to see patterns in yourself that are usually hidden beneath the surface of everyday busyness. Things that were invisible become visible. Questions that seemed confusing find their answers not in more thinking, but in the clarity that silence brings. Buddhist teachings talk about 3 kinds of silence, each deeper than the last. First is physical silence, simply not speaking. This is the easiest to practice, but just the beginning of the journey. Next comes mental silence, when the constant stream of thoughts begins to slow down and leave gaps of quiet. The deepest form is what some call essential silence, a profound stillness where you directly experience reality without the filter of concepts. There's a practice called noble silence that many Buddhist communities observe. During certain times or activities, everyone agrees not to speak unless absolutely necessary. It's not meant as a rule to make life harder, but as a gift that creates space for something deeper to emerge. When we stop filling every moment with words, we start noticing things we've been missing all along. This practice of silence connects directly with the Eightfold Path that Buddha taught. Right speech is one part of this path, but interestingly, knowing when not to speak is just as important as knowing what to say. When you practice silence, you're not just avoiding wrong speech, you're creating the conditions for wisdom to grow. An old forest monk once compared silence to the space inside a cup. The cup is useful, he said, not because of what it's made of, but because of the empty space it contains. In the same way, our lives become more meaningful, not just by what we add to them, but by the silent spaces we protect within them. When you begin to value silence this way, something shifts. The quiet moments in your day aren't empty gaps to be filled, but precious opportunities to touch something real and refreshing. Like a traveler in the desert who finds a cool spring, you discover that silence isn't an absence but a presence, not a lack of something but a gift in itself. Learning to be comfortable in silence takes practice. Our minds are so used to noise that quiet can feel strange at first, even uncomfortable. That's normal. Just like your eyes need time to adjust when you walk from bright sunlight into a dimly lit room, your mind needs time to settle into silence. Stay with it. The discomfort passes, and something beautiful waits on the other side. When people ask Buddha the big questions about the universe, is the world eternal? Is it finite? What happens after death? He often did something unexpected. He stayed silent. This wasn't because he didn't know the answers. It was because he understood something profound about silence that most of us miss. Imagine you're trying to explain the taste of chocolate to someone who has never tasted it. No matter how many words you use, they won't truly understand until they experience it themselves. Buddha's silence worked the same way. Some truths can't be captured in words. They must be experienced directly. There's a famous story that illustrates this perfectly. One day, Buddha sat before a large gathering of followers. Everyone waited for him to speak, but instead, he simply held up a flower and remained silent. Most people were confused, but one disciple named Mahakasyapa smiled in understanding. Buddha said, "What can be explained in words, I have given to all. What cannot be explained in words, I give to Mahakasyapa." This moment became known as the Flower Sermon, where the deepest teaching was transmitted without a single word. Buddha chose silence at crucial moments because he knew that too many words could actually block understanding rather than create it. When your mind gets caught up in ideas, concepts, and explanations, you can miss the direct experience of truth that's right in front of you. His silence wasn't empty. It was an invitation to look beyond words. He also remained silent when people asked what he called the unanswerable questions. These were questions about things that are beyond our everyday experience, like whether the universe has a beginning or whether a person continues to exist after death. Buddha compared answering these questions to a man shot with a poisoned arrow who refuses medical help until he knows who shot the arrow, what wood it was made from, and which bird the feathers came from. You'll die before getting those answers, Buddha said, and they won't help remove the arrow. Instead of getting lost in endless theories, Buddha focused on what we can know directly: that life contains suffering, that suffering has causes, that suffering can end, and that there's a path to that freedom. His silence protected his students from getting lost in mental mazes that wouldn't help them find real peace. Perhaps most importantly, Buddha understood that the deepest truths are passed on through more than just words. When you sit with a truly wise person, you learn from their presence, their actions, and their way of being, not just from what they say. This is called the transmission of the lamp in some traditions. Like one candle lighting another, wisdom is passed from heart to heart, mind to mind, in ways that go beyond language. A master once told his student, "The truth I'm pointing to is like the moon. My words are just a finger pointing at that moon. Don't mistake my finger for the moon itself." Buddha's silence was his way of helping people look past the finger to see the moon directly. This silence continues to teach us today. In a world drowning in information, opinions, and endless talking, Buddha's deliberate silence reminds us that some of the most powerful discoveries happen in the spaces between words, in the quiet moments when we stop explaining and simply experience life directly. In the heart of many temples throughout Japan, you'll find people sitting still, back straight, eyes half closed, doing seemingly nothing. This practice is called zazen, or seated meditation, and it holds the key to discovering inner silence. But don't be fooled by how simple it looks from the outside. Inside the mind of someone practicing zazen, a profound journey is taking place. Zazen begins with the body. Find a quiet spot. Sit on a cushion with your legs crossed, or on a chair if that's more comfortable. Keep your back straight but not stiff, like a tree growing toward the sky. Rest your hands in your lap, right hand on left, thumbs lightly touching to form an oval. This isn't just about looking like a statue in a temple. This posture creates stability, a solid foundation for the silence you're about to explore. Once your body is settled, your breath becomes the bridge to silence. You don't need to control it or make it deeper. Just notice it. Feel the natural rhythm in and out, in and out. When someone first starts practicing, they're often surprised by how loud their mind becomes as soon as they try to be quiet. Thoughts jump around like monkeys in a forest. What's for dinner? Did I respond to that email? My foot is falling asleep. This is normal. The noise was always there. You're just noticing it now. An old teacher once said, "The mind is like a lake. When the wind blows, the surface becomes choppy with waves and you can't see to the bottom. When the wind stops, the water becomes clear and you can see all the way down." This is what happens in zazen. By sitting still and returning to your breath again and again, the mental wind gradually calms. The waves of thought become smaller. Moments of clarity begin to appear between the thoughts. The secret to finding silence isn't forcing your mind to be quiet. That's like trying to smooth waves by pressing them down with your hands. You just create more disturbance. Instead, you learn to stop feeding the thought machine. When a thought appears, you simply notice it without getting caught up in its story, without judging it as good or bad. Thinking, you might silently note and then gently return to your breath. It's this light touch of awareness that gradually allows the mind to settle into silence on its own. Your breathing becomes a powerful ally in this practice. When the mind wanders, the breath brings you back to now. Not yesterday, not tomorrow, just this moment. With each breath, you're saying, "I'm here." The breath has no past or future. It exists only in the present. By staying with it, you stay in the only place where silence can be found right here, right now. Of course, obstacles will appear. Your legs might hurt. You might feel restless or sleepy. Your mind might flood with worries or memories. These are all normal parts of the path. The biggest obstacle, though, is expecting perfect silence right away. True silence isn't the absence of all thoughts. It's the spacious awareness that allows thoughts to come and go without being carried away by them. One master compared it to watching clouds pass across the sky. The clouds aren't the problem. Getting attached to them is. In deep zazen, you become like the sky vast open, allowing everything to pass through without resistance. This doesn't happen overnight. Like learning any skill, it takes practice. But even a few minutes of zazen each day plants seeds that grow deeper with time. The beauty of zazen is that anyone can practice it. You don't need special equipment or years of study. You don't even need to call yourself a Buddhist. All you need is the willingness to sit still and face yourself honestly. In a world that's constantly pulling your attention outward, zazen is a radical act, turning your attention inward to discover the silence that's been waiting there all along. Stories often teach us more than explanations ever could. Throughout history, tales of silent monks and their unexpected wisdom have helped people understand the power of silence. Let me share some of these stories with you, each one a window into a different aspect of silence. There once was a monk who made a remarkable choice. After years of study and talk, he decided to take a vow of silence for 30 years. People from far and wide heard about this silent monk and came to him with their problems, seeking advice. Without speaking a word, he would listen intently to each visitor. Sometimes he would write a short note. Other times, he would simply smile or nod. Strangely, Visitors often left feeling they had received exactly the guidance they needed, though no words had been exchanged. After 30 years, when asked why he chose silence for so long, he wrote just 7 words. Less talking gave more room for truth. Another story tells of an eager young man who traveled to a remote mountain temple to study with a famous teacher. Upon arrival, he found the master working in the garden. Full of excitement, the student began talking non-stop about all the books he had read and the insights he thought he had gained. He talked about his spiritual experiences and his expectations for study. On and on he went, barely taking a breath. The master said nothing. He simply continued tending his plants. Hour after hour passed, with the student talking and the master gardening in silence. As evening approached, the master finally spoke. "You have traveled a long way, and all day you have poured out words like a waterfall. Now your throat must be dry. Let's have some tea." In that moment, the student realized he had learned nothing all day because he had been too busy talking. His first lesson had already begun. Silence comes before wisdom. There's also the tale of the empty bowl. A professor visited a renowned monk to learn about silence. As they sat together, the monk offered to pour tea. He filled the professor's cup to the brim, then kept pouring until tea spilled everywhere. Alarmed, the professor cried out, "Stop! The cup is too full." The monk replied, "Like this cup, your mind is too full of opinions and speculations. How can you learn about silence unless you first empty your cup?" One of the most powerful stories involves 2 Zen masters who met after decades of separate practice. Visitors expected a profound dialogue between these 2 wise teachers. Instead, they sat together in perfect silence for an entire day. As the sun set, they bowed to each other, and one departed. A confused student asked, "Master, why didn't you speak with your old friend?" The remaining teacher smiled and said, "Some flowers need no description to share their fragrance." The 2 masters had communicated everything important without a single word. Nature itself teaches silence in many stories. A frustrated student once asked his teacher how to understand the truth. The teacher led him to a rushing river and simply pointed. For a long while, they stood watching the water flow. Finally, the teacher asked, "What does the river say?" The student listened carefully to the sounds of splashing water. "It speaks many languages at once," he ventured. "No," said the teacher. "It says nothing at all, yet it expresses everything. That is the language of reality." Perhaps the most dramatic tale is of the samurai and the monk. A fierce warrior approached a meditation master and demanded, "Teach me about heaven and hell." The monk looked at him and said, "I cannot teach anything to someone as dirty and ignorant as you. Get out of my sight." The samurai, enraged, drew his sword to strike. The monk calmly pointed at him and said, "That is hell." Suddenly understanding the trap of his own anger, the samurai lowered his weapon and bowed in gratitude. The monk smiled and said, "And that is heaven." Without fighting, without lengthy lectures, the monk had demonstrated the entire path through the power of silence and a few well-placed words. Have you ever noticed that most of our aha moments come during quiet times? There's a reason for this. Wisdom and silence have a special relationship, like close friends who bring out the best in each other. Let's explore why silence creates the perfect conditions for wisdom to grow. Think about trying to see stars during the day. They're still there in the sky, but the sun's brightness hides them from view. Only when darkness falls can you see their true splendor. Wisdom works in a similar way. The constant noise of thoughts and information can be so bright and distracting that the deeper truths remain hidden. Silence creates the darkness needed for the stars of insight to become visible. This is why many traditions encourage periods of silence before making important decisions. When you quiet your mind, you're not just reducing noise, you're creating space for something deeper to emerge. It's like clearing a path so wisdom can find its way to you. The answers were there all along, but they were drowned out by the mental chatter. Listening is a powerful practice that connects silence with understanding. True listening isn't just waiting for your turn to speak. It's being fully present with someone without planning your response. When you listen this way, you create a silence inside yourself where real connection happens. A wise person once said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we can listen twice as much as we speak." This kind of silent listening leads to insights you'd never gain through talking. One of the most fascinating aspects of silence is how it breaks your usual thought patterns. Your mind tends to think in habitual ways, following the same mental paths over and over. It's like walking the same trail through a forest every day until it becomes so familiar. You don't even notice the scenery anymore. Silence acts like a fresh snowfall that covers those familiar paths. Suddenly, you can't follow your usual routes of thinking, and you're forced to see the landscape anew. This is where fresh insights come from, when your mind can't rely on its old patterns. Silence also opens the door to intuition, that mysterious knowing that comes not from logical thinking, but from a deeper place. Some call this heart wisdom or gut feeling. It's the flash of understanding that solves a problem you've been struggling with for days. These intuitive insights often arrive during quiet moments in the shower, on a walk, or just before sleep, when your thinking mind has stepped aside and allowed this deeper wisdom to surface. There's a beautiful metaphor that describes this relationship between silence and wisdom. Imagine your mind as a mirror. When water is stirred up and choppy, it can't reflect anything clearly. But when water becomes still, it perfectly reflects the moon and stars. Your mind works the same way. When it's agitated with thoughts, worries, and distractions, it can't reflect reality accurately. But when silence calms the mental waters, your mind becomes a perfect mirror, reflecting truth without distortion. This is why silent meditation practices are found in wisdom traditions worldwide. They're not about emptying your mind of all content. They're about clearing away the dust that clouds your natural wisdom. Like cleaning a dirty window, silence removes the grime of conditioned thinking so that light can shine through clearly. The transformation that happens through silence isn't instant. It unfolds gradually in its own time. It's like a photographer in a darkroom, waiting patiently as an image slowly appears in the developing solution. At first, there's nothing visible. Then vague outlines emerge, and finally, the full picture comes into focus. Silent awareness works in this way, allowing the image of truth to develop naturally rather than forcing it to appear. Have you ever been with someone who truly listened to you? Not just heard your words, but really listened with their full attention? It's rare and powerful when it happens. In a world where everyone is eager to speak, true listening has become a lost art. Yet it may be the most important skill for building meaningful connections with others. When most people listen, they're actually just waiting for their turn to speak. Their minds are busy planning what to say next, judging what they hear, or getting distracted by their own thoughts. This isn't listening at all, it's just taking turns talking. Real listening happens in silence, with a quiet mind and an open heart. Try this experiment. The next time someone shares something important with you, put aside your phone, turn away from your computer, and just be there with them. Don't think about your response. Don't mentally argue with what they're saying. Don't try to fix their problem. Just create a space of silence in yourself where their words can land. You'll be amazed at how much more you understand and how much deeper the connection becomes. Words make up only a small part of how humans communicate. Your facial expressions, your posture, the look in your eyes, and even the energy you bring to a room speak volumes without making a sound. Silent communication often reveals more truth than words ever could. A mother knows her child's feelings from a single glance. Good friends can sit together comfortably without saying anything. Lovers communicate worlds of meaning through a simple touch. When we're comfortable with silence in our relationships, we stop filling the air with unnecessary words and start noticing these subtle forms of connection. The spaces between words become as meaningful as the words themselves. There's a special kind of silence that arises when we witness someone else's pain. This isn't an awkward or uncomfortable silence. It's a compassionate presence that says, "I'm here with you in this difficult moment." When someone is grieving or suffering, they don't always need advice or solutions. Sometimes, what they need most is someone who can sit with them in their pain without trying to fix it or make it go away. A wise teacher once said, "Don't just do something, sit there." This turns conventional wisdom on its head. We're taught that when someone is hurting, we should take action, offer solutions, or at least say something helpful. But often the most healing thing we can do is to offer the gift of silent presence. This kind of silence creates a safe container where pain can be felt, expressed, and gradually transformed. Silence also has a remarkable power to heal broken relationships. When conflicts arise, our first instinct is to defend ourselves with more and more words. But this usually makes things worse. Words spoken in anger create wounds that more words can't heal. In these moments, a period of silence, not the cold silence of withdrawal, but the warm silence of reflection, can work wonders. Many relationship problems come from not feeling truly seen and heard by the other person. When you practice silent presence with someone, you're saying, "I see you, I hear you, you matter." This is the foundation of genuine connection, and it doesn't require a single word. There's a beautiful practice called just sitting that partners can do together. Simply sit facing each other, maintaining gentle eye contact without speaking. At first, it might feel awkward or even funny, but after a few minutes, something shifts. Without the constant stream of words, you begin to see the person before you in a new way, not as the collection of habits and history you think you know, but as a living, breathing mystery full of depths you've never explored. This shared silence creates a bridge between two people that's stronger than words can build. It's like two people sitting on opposite banks of a river, gradually building a connection not by throwing stones or shouting across, but by becoming still enough to see their reflection in the same water. Your mind is like a city that never sleeps. Day and night, it buzzes with activity thoughts racing down busy streets, emotions flashing like neon signs, worries honking like impatient drivers. This mental noise is so constant that most people don't even notice it anymore. It's just the background soundtrack of being alive. But what if this noise isn't natural at all? What if it's more like pollution, something that's clouding your experience of life itself? The human mind produces many different kinds of mental noise. There are worries about the future. What if I lose my job? What if they don't like me? Then there are regrets about the past. I should have said something different. Why did I make that mistake? There are judgments about others and yourself. There are endless plans and to-do lists. There's the replay of conversations and events. And beneath it all runs a current of commentary, a voice narrating everything as if you're both the star and critic of your own movie. This noise doesn't come from nowhere. It develops over time as you learn to think in certain ways. From childhood, you pick up patterns of thinking from family, friends, teachers, and society. Some of these patterns are helpful, but many create unnecessary suffering. The worried mind that imagines worst-case scenarios. The critical mind that finds fault in everything. The comparing mind that always feels inferior or superior to others. The planning mind that can never rest in the present moment. These are all learned habits, not essential parts of who you are. The good news is that since you learned these patterns, you can also unlearn them. The first step is simply to notice them. Most people are so identified with their thoughts that they don't realize they have a choice about whether to believe them or follow them. It's like being in a movie theater so absorbed in the film that you forget you're watching a screen. The practice of silent observation helps you remember, oh, these are just thoughts. I don't have to get caught up in this story. Try this simple exercise. For the next minute, just watch your thoughts without getting involved in them. Don't try to change them or judge them or push them away. Just observe them like clouds passing across the sky. Notice how they come and go on their own. You might observe planning thought, worrying thought, remembering thought. This creates a small space between you and the thought stream. In that space lies freedom. As you practice this kind of observation, you'll start to recognize patterns. Maybe you'll notice that your mind loves to replay embarrassing moments from the past. Or perhaps it constantly jumps to the future, rarely resting in the present. You might see how certain thoughts trigger emotional reactions, creating storms of anxiety or anger that weren't there a moment before. This isn't about judging these patterns as bad. It's about seeing them clearly without being fooled by them. There's a particular kind of mental noise that creates enormous suffering. It's called thought proliferation, when one thought triggers another and another and another, building entire imaginary scenarios that have nothing to do with reality. One moment you're thinking about a small mistake at work, and 10 minutes later, you've constructed an entire future where you're unemployed and homeless. Or someone doesn't return your text, and your mind spins a complex drama about how they secretly hate you. These thought cascades can hijack your entire day if you don't catch them early. The antidote to this mental noise isn't more thinking. You can't think your way out of overthinking any more than you can put out a fire by adding more fuel. The antidote is silence, not forcing your mind to be quiet, but gently returning to the calm awareness that notices but doesn't get swept away by the noise. This silence isn't empty. It's full of clarity and peace. It's the background against which all thoughts arise and pass away. As you practice returning to this silence again and again, something remarkable happens. The gaps between thoughts grow longer. The automatic patterns begin to lose their grip. You find yourself spending more time in simple awareness and less time caught in mental movies. This doesn't happen overnight. It's a gradual awakening, like the slow lightening of the sky before dawn. Each moment of noticing is a small step on the path to freedom from mental noise. Throughout the centuries, wisdom traditions have created special times and places dedicated to silence. These aren't just random moments of not talking. They're carefully designed practices that help people experience the transformative power of stillness. Let's explore some of these beautiful traditions that have helped countless people discover the treasure of silence. In Zen monasteries across Japan and other countries, there's a practice called session, an intensive retreat period lasting from a few days to a week or more. During session, participants maintain almost complete silence while following a structured schedule of meditation, walking, eating, and working. The day typically begins before dawn and continues until evening, with alternating periods of sitting and walking meditation. The first day of session often feels challenging. The mind rebels against the silence, creating endless distractions. By the second or third day, something shifts. The mental chatter begins to settle, and moments of clarity emerge. By the end of the retreat, many people experience a profound stillness that continues even after they return to everyday life. This immersive experience of silence is like diving deep into an ocean. The deeper you go, the more peaceful and clear everything becomes. Even the way people eat during these retreats becomes a practice in silence. There's a beautiful mealtime ritual called oryoki, which means just enough. Meals are eaten in the meditation hall, with everyone sitting in the same meditation posture they use for sitting practice. Special bowls are unwrapped and arranged in a precise pattern. Food is served with careful attention, and each person eats mindfully, aware of every bite, every taste, every sensation. No words are spoken, only the sounds of eating and breathing fill the room. This silent eating practice transforms an ordinary activity into something sacred. Without conversation to distract you, the simple act of eating becomes an opportunity to experience life directly. The taste of rice, the texture of vegetables, the movement of your hand from bowl to mouth, everything is experienced with fresh attention, as if for the first time. Another beautiful tradition that incorporates silence is the tea ceremony. Though the host may speak briefly to welcome guests, much of the ceremony unfolds in a gentle silence filled with meaningful gestures and movements. The simple acts of preparing, serving, and drinking tea become a meditation in motion. Every movement has purpose. The way the tea is scooped, how the water is poured, how the bowl is turned before drinking. In the silence, these ordinary actions take on extraordinary beauty and significance. Between periods of sitting meditation, practitioners often engage in walking meditation, or kinhen. This isn't the casual walking you do every day. It's a slow, deliberate practice where each step is taken with full awareness. The community walks in a line, maintaining silence while staying connected through synchronized movement. Each foot placement becomes an anchor to the present moment. The feeling of your foot touching the ground, the shifting of weight from one leg to another, the sensation of air on your skin as you move, all of these experiences become vivid in the silence of walking meditation. In most meditation centers and monasteries, there are designated times called noble silence when no unnecessary talking is permitted. This typically includes evenings, early mornings, and mealtimes. During these periods, if communication is absolutely necessary, it's done with simple gestures or brief whispers. This practice helps maintain the collective energy of silence, creating an environment where everyone can more easily access deeper states of awareness. Different Buddhist traditions approach silence in their own unique ways. Zen emphasizes direct experience through intensive sitting practice. Tibetan traditions might incorporate periods of silence within colorful ceremonies with chanting and music. Theravada forest monasteries often maintain silence as the default state, with speaking as the exception rather than the rule. Each approach offers its own pathway to the same destination, the direct experience of reality beyond concepts and words. Deep within every person lies something extraordinary, a natural capacity for wisdom and compassion that's always present, even when we can't see it. This innate quality, sometimes called our true nature or Buddha nature, isn't something we need to create or achieve. It's already there, like the sun behind clouds. The clouds may hide the sun temporarily, but they don't diminish its light. In the same way, confusion and mental noise may hide our true nature, but they don't destroy it. Silence is the clearing of these clouds, revealing what was always there. When someone realizes this nature fully, we might say they're enlightened or awakened. But these words often create more confusion than clarity. They make it sound like some magical state completely different from normal life. The truth is much simpler. An awakened mind isn't filled with special mystical content. It's characterized by a profound silence that allows reality to be seen clearly without distortion. This inner silence isn't empty like a vacuum. It's more like a clear sky, open, spacious, and luminous. Just as the sky allows all weather to pass through it without being damaged or diminished, this silent awareness accommodates all experiences without being disturbed by them. Happiness arises and passes away. Sadness comes and goes. Thoughts appear and disappear. The silent awareness remains, unchanging and undamaged. There's a quality of emptiness to this awareness, but not in the way we usually think of emptiness as a negative thing. It's empty in the sense that it's not filled with fixed ideas about how things should be. It's open to what's actually happening right now without imposing preconceptions. This emptiness is actually fullness, full of potential, full of possibility, full of life. The more familiar you become with this silent awareness, the more you'll start to recognize it in everyday moments. Maybe you've experienced it briefly when watching a beautiful sunset, or during a moment of complete absorption in music or art. Athletes sometimes call it being in the zone, that state where action happens effortlessly, without the interference of thinking. Children live in this state naturally before they learn to overthink everything. These are all glimpses of your true nature shining through when the noise of the mind temporarily subsides. You don't need to be a monk or spend years in meditation to recognize this. In fact, it's so close and so ordinary that we usually overlook it. It's like trying to see your own eyes, that what you see with, not what you can see directly. In the same way, this awareness is what you experience with, not something you can turn into an object of experience. It's always here, in every moment, as the silent context in which all of life unfolds. There's a fascinating paradox here. This silent awareness is absolutely ordinary, nothing special or exotic about it. Yet at the same time, it's the most extraordinary discovery you can make. When you recognize it clearly, even for a moment, it changes everything. The world doesn't look different, but your relationship to it transforms completely. In everyday life, this silent awareness manifests as a natural brightness or clarity of mind. When you're not caught up in a tangle of thoughts, there's a natural intelligence that knows exactly what to do in each situation without having to think it through step by step. Like a mirror that perfectly reflects whatever stands before it, the silent mind responds appropriately to each circumstance without effort or delay. This natural awareness is also the source of genuine compassion. When the noise of self-centered thinking quiets down, there's a natural care for others that arises effortlessly. Not because you should care or because it's the right thing to do, but because in the silence, the artificial boundary between me and other becomes transparent. What remains is a natural responsiveness to suffering wherever it appears. One of the most profound insights of the silent mind is the recognition that there is no solid, permanent self at the center of experience. This doesn't mean you don't exist. It means you don't exist in the way you thought you did. Rather than being a fixed entity navigating through the world, you're more like a process, a flow, an ever-changing dance of consciousness in relationship with everything around you. In the silence, this becomes not just an intellectual idea, but a lived reality. You don't need to live in a monastery to bring the power of silence into your life. Even in today's noisy world, there are simple ways to create islands of stillness in your everyday routine. These small practices might seem insignificant at first, but their effects build over time, like drops of water gradually filling a bucket. Start with short moments of silence scattered throughout your day. When you first wake up in the morning, before reaching for your phone or jumping out of bed, take 3 conscious breaths. Feel the sensation of breathing. Notice the transition from sleep to wakefulness. This takes less than a minute but sets a different tone for your entire day. Another perfect time for a brief silence practice is just before eating. Instead of immediately scrolling through your phone or turning on the TV while you eat, try taking 3 breaths and silently acknowledging the food in front of you. This tiny pause can transform a rushed meal into a moment of renewal. Transitions between activities offer natural opportunities for mini silences. Before starting your car, take a moment to sit quietly with your hands on the steering wheel. Before entering an important meeting, pause outside the door for 3 breaths. Before picking up your children from school, give yourself 30 seconds of silence to become fully present. These brief pauses might seem too short to matter, but they work like reset buttons for your nervous system. Finding silence in urban environments presents special challenges. Cities bombard us with noise pollution, traffic, construction, crowds, and the constant hum of technology. Yet, even in the heart of a busy city, pockets of relative quiet exist if you know where to look. Parks, libraries, museums, and places of worship often offer respite from the urban roar. Some cities even have designated quiet parks where noise levels are kept to a minimum. If you can't find external silence, you can create inner silence by using simple tools. Noise-canceling headphones can transform a noisy commute into a mobile meditation hall. A white noise app can mask disruptive sounds in your environment. Even ordinary earplugs can provide enough buffering to help you drop into a more peaceful state. In today's world, one of the biggest obstacles to silence isn't external noise, but the constant ping of notifications from our devices. The average person checks their phone 96 times a day. That's once every 10 minutes of waking life. Each check pulls you out of the present moment and into a reactive state. Creating boundaries around technology use is essential for protecting silence in your life. Try designating certain times or spaces as device-free zones. Maybe the first hour after waking and the last hour before sleep are phone-free. Or perhaps the dinner table and bedroom remain technology-free sanctuaries. Some people find it helpful to turn off all notifications, except from real humans trying to reach them directly. Others use apps that limit their access to distracting sites during certain hours. A challenging but rewarding practice is to notice your reaction when silence is broken. Do you feel relief when someone starts talking during a quiet moment? Do you instinctively reach for your phone when waiting in line? Do you turn on music or a podcast the moment you're alone? This aversion to silence is completely normal in our culture, but becoming aware of it is the first step toward a healthier relationship with quiet. Many people discover that what initially feels like uncomfortable silence soon transforms into peaceful silence if they stay with it. The discomfort comes from the mind's habitual craving for stimulation and its fear of what might emerge in the quiet. As you practice staying with silence despite initial discomfort, you develop a taste for it, like developing a palate for subtle flavors after years of eating only strong, spicy foods. Small moments of intentional pause throughout the day can become powerful, transformative practices. Try this. Set a gentle alarm to ring once every hour. When it sounds, pause whatever you're doing for just 3 breaths. Notice where you are, how your body feels, and what's happening in your mind. Then continue with your activities. This practice takes less than 30 seconds but creates a thread of mindful silence that runs through your entire day. Silence can be a powerful resource for managing stress and anxiety in today's high-pressure world. When worrying thoughts or overwhelming emotions arise, a moment of intentional silence can create space around the difficulty. It's like stepping back from a painting you've been examining from too close with a bit of distance. You can see the whole picture more clearly and respond with greater wisdom. As we come to the end of our journey, exploring the power of silence together, I want to pause and express my gratitude. Thank you for sharing this time with me, for being willing to consider the possibility that in a world that glorifies noise, silence might be your most valuable resource. The wisdom we've explored today isn't meant to just be heard and forgotten. It's meant to be lived. Perhaps right now, in this very moment, you're feeling a subtle shift, a new awareness of the silence that's always been there, waiting for you to notice it. What if this is just the beginning? What if the insights you've gained today are seeds that, with a little attention, could grow into profound changes in how you experience your life? If you found value in what we've shared today, I'd like to invite you to take 2 simple actions. First, subscribe to this channel. Each week, we explore another facet of ancient wisdom made practical for modern life. By subscribing, you'll join a growing community of people committed to living with greater awareness and peace. Just click the subscribe button below. It takes only a second, but it helps ensure these teachings reach more people who might benefit from them. Second, If you know someone who struggles with the constant noise of modern life, someone who might find a moment of peace through these teachings, please share this video with them. Sometimes the most generous thing we can do is to offer someone else the gift of silence. The journey doesn't end here. In fact, it's just beginning. The real exploration happens when you close this video and bring these practices into your daily life. Remember, even a moment of true silence contains infinite potential. Until next time, may you discover the treasures waiting for you in the spaces between your thoughts.